now call the January 10th, 2024 San Diego County Board of Supervisors Land Use Meeting to order. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. Before I call the roll, I'd like to note for the record that Chairwoman Vargas is absent from today's session due to meetings scheduled with the White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, and Supervisor Anderson will also be absent today due to illness. With that noted, I'll call the roll. Supervisor Montgomery-Stepp.
Here.
Supervisor Desmond. Here. And Vice Chair Lawson-Remer.
Here. We will now proceed with non-agenda public communications. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board and subject matters within the board's jurisdiction, but not an item on today's agenda. The only action that the board may take is a referral to the Chief Administrative Officer. Reminder, according to Rule 4A, members of the public that are non-English speaking and need interpretation assistance will get twice the allotted time for their comments, which is 4 minutes. As a reminder, according to the board rules and procedures, audience members shall not whistle, clap, stomp feet, or anything that disrupts the proceedings.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 15 total requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda. We have 2 individuals in person and 13 requesting to speak by phone. For those that have requested to speak via phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now. With the instructions that were provided to you, we'll begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand against the wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. You'll then have 2 minutes to address the board, and I'd like to invite forward the following individuals: Robert Gurman and Gambler.
Madam Chair, may I request 3 minutes if you can afford the time, please? I might not need it, but I'd like to have it.
We have a 2-minute public comment rule.
That's fine. I just wanted to make a request. Oh. Supervisors, I have a slideshow. This is how the San Diego County Airport's logs keeps track of their noise complaints. And as you can tell, it is very detailed. And at the meetings that I went to for the pilots, wow, that's a quick switch over, but okay. Yeah, thanks. As you can tell, when I ask why they do this bombing grid, which we consider as a bombing grid because it itemizes and describes your particular neighborhood all the way down to 4 or 5 streets, it was told that it was because it was anonymous. That's not very anonymous on that first grid. If we can go back to it, please. Granted, the names are not there, but you know, noise is like a shotgun approach. It's not a rifle approach. So all you have to do is fly over the neighborhood and you've covered and you've retaliated against the people who have made the noise complaints. This is how McAllen up at Palomar does it, and they just simply say northeast, west, but they do filter their complaints. They will not log all of the complaints. So they're judge, jury, and executioner up there. This is how the city does it. They just name their local communities around the airport, and they do not filter their complaints. Why does the county have to filter and ID the neighborhoods so specifically? And this is Brownfield. Now, this is where the FAA wants the flight schools at Brownfield. But that recommendation was ignored by San Diego Regional Airport Authority. And I brought you this because you can tear it off and then you can compare it. So could we possibly get San Diego, that's pretty quick. I thought I had a 2-minute deal with the slide. Anyway, thank you.
Gambler here. Things have changed a little bit. I don't know exactly the direction I'm going to go, but I'm going to check out the DOJ on my cases. But I want to go ahead and show you something I heard this morning from Tim Pool, which will be doing a town hall with Vivek. Everyone should watch it.
There's no question. The issue of illegal immigration being facilitated by the Biden administration is a nation-ending event. Now, of course, it may be that there are many people who believe in some kind of label that is the United States. But rest assured, with around 10 million illegal immigrants being brought into this country, give it a generation. This is the battle tactic of Democrats who know they're losing, know that those who believe in the constitutional republic are winning. And this is why the Biden administration is engaged in human trafficking. And that's true. On the southern border, even law enforcement, federal agencies are facilitating human trafficking.
You too.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can confirm to you right now,
All of you.
Personally reviewed the evidence pertaining to the
You don't
facilitation of
understand
illegal
how
immigration.
pissed off I am.
This includes boarding passes that state no name given.
To the
I
point
have
I'm willing to go
personally
to
been
every
shown
single
the
house and
evidence
tell
of this.
people
I have
how to
verified
cheat
it.
and get
I will
you
say
out of
for now,
office, Tara.
It's hard to know
And put in
exactly what the
Kevin, which
source
I
of
also
these,
don't like.
this information is, but what I can tell you is, I have been shown the images of boarding passes from a major airline with the name, quote, no name given.
No name.
Additionally,
And that probably came
there
from
are
us
other
too.
documents,
And that came from you guys helping it.
have been produced, it would appear, by, I'm trying to
That's what
Thank you. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. Again, we will be hearing from the first 5 callers. The remaining callers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller.
All the bold. California has a huge budget deficit. The governor has ordered his people to start saving money, but with a $30 billion deficit and more predicted for the next few years, you probably won't get all the funding you planned for. A good idea would be to have a group think to rethink the budget, and I mean open to all sorts of people and crazy original ideas. See where we can cut back, see if we can need all those programs. Something that would grow the economy is limiting increases of rents, utility bills, water bills, and the like to the cost of living, and adjust that regularly. The people would have more money in their pockets to spend on essentials and help grow local businesses. This would reduce the number of people who become homeless and not being able to afford rent and so on. Another thing we need to emphasize is volunteerism. We've got to find a way around the equity nonsense that only seems to selectively drain our pockets. Please, no more land buys for $50,000 per acre or $40 million parks that aren't needed. No more $250,000 studies or new bureaucracies, please. If you can't trust your own staff, someone should resign or be fired. There you go. A few good ideas. For free! Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Terry Ann Skelly. I'm a parent of 3 adult sons, and I've worked on behalf of young adults to safeguard their passage to productive adulthood. Yesterday, I shared with you recent National Institute on Drug Abuse research recorded in the Journal of Psychological Medicine regarding cannabis addiction and its association to the development of psychiatric disorder, schizophrenia. This study of nearly 7 million people ages 16 to 49 found the association was stronger for males overall, and especially of the ages 16 to 25-year-olds. Another study published in Lancet Psychiatry reported when young adults used cannabis daily, they were more likely to become dependent on cannabis and other drugs and attempt suicide, and less likely to finish high school compared with teens who had never used. Adolescence is an especially risky time to use marijuana because the adolescent brain is still developing into early adulthood. During this period, neural connections within adolescent brains are forming and getting reinforced or being pruned. Research Research has affirmed that today's cannabis products are so extremely potent and so different from yesterday's pot that they should have a whole different name. These highly concentrated THC marijuana products are especially and essentially new drugs and profoundly affect teens' brains and their daily functioning. They should not be a part of the county's retail environment. Thank you for hearing my concerns this morning.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Kathleen Lippitt here. Good morning, Board. My degree is in public health with a concentration in health promotion, advocating for policies that protect public health. So it has been beyond frustrating to listen as the former disgraced Nathan Fletcher and this board majority have continued to agree to adopt an ordinance that they disingenuously claimed was in the interest of unincorporated communities. Equally frustrating was the silence on the part of our county's public health officer. Human decency should have led this board to reconsider in light of the harms and the carnage that has been done and continues to be done by marijuana users of these high THC products. I don't know when, and it would be wonderful to see a revisiting of this ordinance. Promoting public health was once a goal that was shared by previous boards of supervisors. Outreach by previous boards was in person and genuine. Supervisors like Diane Jacobs listened to her unincorporated constituents with what now seems like a naive notion that her responsibility was to implement those policies, address their priorities. Community outreach was not simply a box for DSD staff to check off. What changed? Money, influenced, and a misguided ideological focus that they believed that everyone on the board should be from the same party, that there should be no dissent, and that this industry actually can be regulated in any coherent type of way. It cannot. Its DNA is in corruption and influence, and it would be.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Consuelo. If you don't think people are under mind control, just look at how they treat anyone who thinks freely and questions the official narrative. If you're not willing to entertain the possibility that you've been fooled by government and the media, then you are the easiest kind of person to fool. The crazy part about these times is that the people are more loyal to the ones who want to control them and work them to death than they are to the people who are trying to save them and lead them to truth. So thanks to all who boldly share the truth without fear of offending others. Our society is falling apart, and now is not the time for being nice and likable. The most kind and loving action anyone can do is speak truth. To the rebels, this is for the ones that see through the deception and lies, that actively call out and resist the tyranny, and live a life which is led by their own intuition and heart. They are owned by no one. To the brave women and men who courageously risk their reputation and relationships to stand up for what they believe in. Although they may be courageous, they are also selfless, intuitive, and conscious. They care, they love, they fight. Not only for their freedom, but for everyone's freedom. This government system is imploding. We see it. We saw it at yesterday's meeting with so many people calling out this local government. We see it everywhere. So keep standing. Don't stop. I see you. I love you. And fuck their New World Order.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Kevin Stevenson. Oh, no, don't worry, Consuelo. I'm not afraid to offend grifters or quacks like you. Speaking of grifters, I'd like to point out that Tim Pool is one. And if certain individuals would like to gamble their credibility away by listening to Tim Pool or trusting people like Kevin Falk, then that's their business. But one other thing I wanted to point out, this is the reason why I called in today. I wanted to point out that Jim Desmond has been pretty active on Twitter, or his staffers have been, mostly just posting misinformation about the tents, the immigrant tents over in Taukumba, and claiming that taxpayers are paying for them when they're not, or just spreading a bunch of xenophobic garbage about the border, claiming that undocumented immigrants don't deserve health care, even though they contribute to our society. But one post that caught my attention was retweeting, or quote tweeting rather, Libs of TikTok. For those who don't know, Libs of TikTok is a fascist on Twitter that has stoked terror on the LGBT community. Here's an article from NPR dated August 26, 2022. Children's hospitals are the latest target of anti-LGBTQ harassment. Quote, hospitals and doctors around the country are facing harassment and even death threats over the medical care they offer to transgender kids. In many cases, they have been the subject of posts by a Twitter account called Libs of TikTok, as well as stories in conservative media outlets casting gender-affirming care as child abuse and mutilation, unquote. So, Jim, are these the types of people that you want to align yourself with? Literal stochastic terrorists who inflict terror?
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Scott Chipman, 5 reasons marijuana is not medicine. Bertha Madras is a professor of psychobiology at McLean Hospital and Harvard Medical School with a research focus on how drugs affect the brain. She's a former deputy director for demand reduction in the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy. Dr. Madras reminds us that to approve a medicine, the FDA requires 5 criteria to be fulfilled. 1, the drug's chemistry must be known and reproducible. The chemistry of pot shop marijuana is not standardized. Levels of THC can vary from 1 to 95%. 2, there must be adequate safety studies. Pot shop marijuana cannot be studied or used safely if the substance is not standardized. User experience indicates that marijuana impairs or degrades brain function, interferes with learning, memory, cognition, and motor control. Long-term use is associated with addiction, loss of motivation, reduced IQ, psychosis, schizophrenia, anxiety, and reduced lifespan. 3, there must be adequate and well-controlled studies proving efficacy. 12 meta-analysis of clinical trials conclude that there is no evidence for the use of marijuana for specific medical conditions. 4, the drug must be accepted by well-qualified experts. Medical associations don't accept marijuana as medicine. The AMA, cannabis is a dangerous drug and as such is a public health concern. The American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, medicalization of marijuana has distorted the perception of the known risks of this drug. American Psychiatric Association, there is no current scientific evidence that marijuana is in any way beneficial for treatment of any psychiatric disorder. Number 5, scientific evidence must be widely available. State ballot and legislative initiatives do not conform to rigorous, objective clinical trials standards.
Thank you. Your time is up. And Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this morning. Again, all remaining speakers will be heard at the conclusion of today's session.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes and statements of proceedings for the regular meeting of December 6, 2023. Is there a motion? Thank you. Second. Okay, great. We have a motion by Supervisor Desmond and a second by Supervisor Montgomery Stepp. Please vote.
And Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present and voting aye.
Great, thank you. We will now proceed with the formation of our consent calendar, items 1 through 5. Members of the public will be able to comment on the consent calendar after the supervisors pull the items they would like for discussion. Before I hand the floor to my colleagues for comments, I will turn it over to the clerk for a statement about items 2 and 4.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. I'd like to note for the record that items 2 and item 4 are being continued to the meeting of January 24th, 2024. And as a reminder to the public that wish to speak on those items, you may only address your comments to the continuance of those items. With that being noted.
Thank you so much. Supervisor Desmond, do you have any items to pull or any comments to make?
No, Vice Chair, none to pull, but it will do have a comment on item 5. I think this is a great item, the local broadband capacity that you brought forward, streamlining new infrastructure projects for the broadband. I think this is great, especially it's going to benefit many people in the rural areas, unincorporated areas, and any other place in the county where internet access may be sparse. I just wanted to mention that much of the language used in this board letter for broadband regarding reducing permitting delays, costs, risk of increased inflation, all apply to housing projects as well, which we also need. So appreciate bringing this forward, happy to support, and happy to make a motion for the balance of the consent, I guess items 1, 3, and 5.
Great, thank you. Supervisor Montgomery Stepp, anything to pull or comments to make?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Nothing to pull. I would like to echo my colleagues' comments on item number 5. I do have a quick question about item number 5, which can be also answered after the meeting. I'm supportive of the item. The staff report does mention that once funding has been allocated to a broadband project, it must be completed within 18 to 24 months if the project is exempt from CEQA. Understanding that staff has developed a broadband plan, is in phase 2 with infrastructure mapping. Does that have any impact on this action, and would this project require a program EIR, or has one been submitted already?
Turn it to Mel.
Supervisor, thank you. With this item, we'll be looking at the streamlining efforts for the permitting, and then we'll be coming back on the other items that you're briefing, and we can certainly brief you up on that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much, and I will second the consent calendar, what is left of it, 1, 3, and 5. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make a couple of comments on item 5. Which is about increasing local broadband capacity by streamlining and expediting broadband infrastructure projects. I brought this forward because I think throughout San Diego County, there are communities that lack equal access to broadband internet service. These communities are considered to be internet deserts. And the lack of access to quality high-speed internet impacts many communities, but disproportionately affects people of color, low-income individuals, and our rural and unincorporated communities. In a world that is becoming increasingly more dependent on technology and data, having a reliable internet connection is vital. It's just difficult to complete school tasks, work remotely, even access healthcare, or stay connected to family without the internet. So today's action aims to have county staff take a careful look at how we can expedite and streamline our internal processes for new broadband infrastructure projects. This way, projects that should be eligible for various grants, specifically broadband equity access and deployment, this is so-called BEAD funds, can be carried out effectively and within the parameters and timeframe required. So by passing this item, we can help to increase connectivity and access to internet across our region. So I'm grateful for the support of my colleagues today. So with that, we will now turn to public comment. As a reminder for members of the public, please keep your comments related to those items only on the consent calendar. Clerk, can you please call the speakers from the public?
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer. We have 18 total requests to speak on items on the consent calendar, 3 individuals in person, and 15 requesting to speak by phone. As a reminder, items 2 and 4 were continued to January 24th, 2024, so you may only speak to the continuance of those items. For any members of the public that requested to speak on the items on the consent calendar, if you could please dial into the conference line now using those instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers, and as your name is called, if you could please come forward and stand against the east wall under the murals until it is your turn to speak. I'd like to invite forward the following individuals: Alberto Velasquez, Christine Moore, and Gambler. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board, and if you could please begin by stating your name for the record.
Yes, hi, good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Alberto Velasquez, Government Affairs Manager for Cox Communications. As we have seen in recent years, broadband has become important to our daily lives, and broadband connectivity has been a focus for recent government funding for investment. In fact, the Broadband Equity, Access, and Deployment, or BEAD program, will be investing almost $2 billion in our state to help expand high-speed internet access by funding planning, infrastructure deployment, and adoption programs. However, this funding comes with timeline requirements of anywhere between 18 to 24 months for infrastructure projects to be completed once funding has been awarded. Permitting issues have been identified by the CPUC's BEAD 5-year action plan as follows. Given the size of the state and the multiple permitting entities from which grantees will need to gain approval, permitting for infrastructure projects will represent a major challenge. Increasing local broadband capacity by identifying ways to streamline and expedite new broadband infrastructure projects will help those of us lucky enough to get funding through this program overcome those challenges and complete the requirements as set forth by the program. This will give our county an advantage and bring connectivity to more of the residents we all serve. We all know how life-changing broadband connectivity can be to those without. It brings more economic opportunity and economic mobility, access to learning, to telehealth, and so much more to our residents. Thank you to Vice Chair Lawson Remer for bringing this idea forward and gathering Cox Communications and other stakeholders and helping to bring more broadband connectivity to our county. Thank you again for this time to speak, and I urge this board to vote yes on this important item. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Vice Chair and members of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors. My name is Christine Moore, and I'm the Executive Director of External Affairs for AT&T. On behalf of the more than 1,700 AT&T employees who call San Diego County home, I'm here to express our appreciation for the county's forward-thinking efforts to streamline broadband deployment to residents and businesses throughout the county. Addressing the digital divide is a priority for AT&T. We've invested nearly $650 million since 2019 in this region to expand and improve our network infrastructure. Additionally, we've also provided more than $500,000 in charitable giving to local nonprofits during that same period, with a major focus on reducing the digital divide. The county has already demonstrated leadership in the region by working collaboratively with ISPs to minimize delays between design and deployment. Today's action will expand that partnership by encouraging staff to work with our industry to continue to identify additional opportunities to improve timelines so that we may continue to invest in providing quality internet access for county residents. As we saw during the pandemic, access to the internet is integral to distance learning, remote work, telehealth, maintaining social and family connections, and identifying and accessing other critically needed resources. Our industry has made strides in narrowing the digital divide. We appreciate Supervisor Lawson Remer's leadership towards expanding this effort. Thank you for your consideration, and we respectfully request that you support this proposal before you today. Thank you.
Gambler here. Now, I don't believe you, even with number 5. I believe that you want to get the funds, 100%. But will those funds actually go to that topic? Fuck no, it's going to go to housing or something else. Much like the cigarette tax that was there to help people, you know, because we're going to have all these expensive health bills and you guys need to front the bill for it, so we need to save that money for it. Where's that money going? Housing. I showed you a video, or I had you guys listen to a video, which will explain that I could go ahead and talk about anything I want up here, as long as I believe that you guys were elected illegitimately. And I do, especially the 3 of you that are in the city. Right now, they are working actively to move homeless population that can register and vote to certain areas. They don't care what happens to them because those ballots are up there. If those ballots go through the system, regardless if the signature matches, they will get passed at a 90% probably higher than a 90% rate. Monica knows this. I'm sure of it. Same as Tara, because she refuses to even look up here at anyone that has anything to say that they're kissing your ass. And by far, I don't kiss anyone's ass. You saw that yesterday. I didn't even kiss the ass of Helen, which I respect immensely, more than any of you could ever know, which killed me yesterday for coming up here and saying what I said. And right now, and I talked to Nicole to help me on a path that will not go directly against you guys, begging her for help. And I'm going to read the documentation that she gave me to stop me from fighting back.
Thank you. We will now hear from those that requested to speak by phone. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll go ahead and begin with our first caller. First caller is Paul. You may need to unmute your phone. We can hear you, Paul. Go ahead. We'll come back to you, Paul.
Hey, it's truth. Item 1, I still have a stop sign for the Traffic Advisory Committee. That applies to MTS and Sandag for the same reasons. The agenda to de-incentivize driving. Nobody wants to force anyone to stop driving. Just make it impossibly frustrating and expensive. Item 2, why continuation is bad. What few saw coming was political criminals like the crooked cannabis Cardenas using the industry as a money funnel to political campaigns. Perhaps taking the licensing program away from the sheriff's department was a tactic. And planning and development keeps pretending they're equipped to handle this program and all the corruption that's been growing grassroots behind the scenes. And I wonder if people know that some cities are planning to use these cannabis businesses as an excuse to put up ALPRs. Item 3, $9.5 million to buy and restore some ball fields in Lakeside is outrageous. It's not a bad project by any means, but I'd like to see some cost reduction, maybe by nixing the $3.8 million trail along the San Diego River. Item 4, as this item says, the 30 by 30 program is an international agenda to take away 30% of the Earth's land and water from humans' use. This plan derived from 2021 amended Executive Order 12898, which still refers to the myth of ozone depletion and is in socialist sync with the United Nations Paris Agreement. No continuation. And item 5, AT&T and Cox are looking to get rich off the made-up digital divide, as referred to by Sandag, which aims to see the building of totalitarian smart surveillance cities, where, quote, government will regulate economic activities and personal behaviors, end quote. That's from the 2021 regional plan, coming to a 2025 near you. I actually like to see less broadband because the radiation poses a significant health risk for humanity. And many of the internet partners are World Economic Forum members, such as Cox, Cisco, Dell, Google, HP, IBM, Intel, Microsoft, and Qualcomm. Pay our health bills if you want your toxic tech. No consent.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
This is Peggy Walker, political research analyst. I thank you for continuing item 2. This is an item with political payoff undertones that will have profound economic, social, and environmental impact on rural county communities, families, and children. It deserves much greater discussion, resident, and planning group feedback. I hope that you provide sufficient opportunity for that feedback and discussion, as this item involves action that residents neither asked for nor voted for. The value of the funding at issue is highly questionable in terms of what could be highly costly social outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Kathleen Lippert here. I'd like to address the decision to continue item 2. I agree that this was in the best interest of the public to continue an item that should never have been on consent and deserves a lot of public scrutiny and ability for the public to be able to weigh in. The state's decision to begin using taxpayer money to offer grants to cities to implement policies that the public would clearly not support is nothing less than coercion or bribery. And we hope that the county will not make decisions based purely on how much money can we get, because once the county accepts that money, it is obligated to fulfill and use the grant money in the ways that the state had envisioned to help the marijuana industry. This is an industry that does not deserve to be supported. It does not deserve for taxpayer money to be continued to be poured into it. And once and for all, we should have a cost-benefit analysis that would challenge the county leaders to provide what the benefits have been of this industry. We can list the harms that have been unbelievably difficult on the ability of county people to raise their children drug-free. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
This is Ann Riddle. I, too, would like to add my thanks for having item 2 postponed. It was a grave concern to the public health community that the county would consider taking money for a program that has not yet come to the Board of Supervisors for your consideration as a board and for the public's opportunity to weigh in, but instead shows up on a consent item as taking money for a program we haven't even seen yet. That's a concern from a transparency that we take money for a program that we haven't even looked at yet. My other concern was the number 1 recommendation from the chief administrative officer that said that this program and the money that's coming, the $2 million plus that's coming from the county to implement it, again, that we haven't seen yet, the program that is, it says that this action has no possibility of having a significant effect on the environment, nor does it have the potential to result in a direct or indirect foreseeable physical change in the environment. Central to this program that's been circulating around that we yet have not seen in print is marijuana grows in our unincorporated area, that anyone would think that this would not have a significant effect on the environment nor change its physicality is nuts. And so it's important that our recommendations are more accurate in their language. And I have to say about accepting money, $2 million, when does money never affect decision-making? It is not wise to take money for a project we have not yet seen. We know wherever money comes, choice-making is encumbered. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Unfortunately, everything is about money. It makes the world go around and causes evilness to flourish because everybody is corrupted by it. So the your whole tack of, complete communities, de-incentivizing driving, and, I'm just wondering when we're going to use the ALPRs for the ultra-low emission zones that you guys aren't going to want us to go in if we have a gas car. That's happening in Europe, so I'm sure that's coming down the pipe soon because it's always about, total control. It's nothing about freedom, but just having your thumb on the people and making sure you know when and where they go and all of that. and continuing, I mean, anything you guys are doing with, marijuana, it's just kind of funny because it's like you guys at the cartel and you come in and you're like, you can't do this. And they're like, you know what, we're going to let you do it, but this is what's going to happen if you do. We're just going to take a bunch of money from you so that you can do it. But, it could go from one day to the next being illegal or legal. That's just like with anything that you guys do. It's like people become criminals because we change the laws and all of a sudden you're jaywalking and, then you can be arrested or something. Anyway, the whole Kumeyaay stuff, I just feel like all of the tribal nations are selling out to the government, which really sucks because then they are not sovereign and they are, letting the mafia basically come in and, determine things for them when they should be doing anything but that. And anytime you're sitting here trying to preserve land, it has nothing to do with that. This is all fraud, waste, and abuse. This is the whole global agenda that you guys are implementing, acting like you care about species and like, we're going to test them, we're going to do this and that. No, it's all about taking everything and putting us into a 15-minute city where you're going to make it eat bugs. It's like, great. And, we're going to get at least 3 outfits a year, so that's good. And no meat, though, so you guys that like to eat meat, I mean, I guess they're printing it now, so that's good, too. And this whole broadband, anything you guys are doing with that?
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Paul Bold. Kevin, stop insulting private people. It makes you look stupid. Now, broadband is more than just land use. An agenda item with impacts on multiple communities should not be on the land use agenda and in the discussion section, not consent. We went through this disrespect for the people stuff yesterday. Please don't do it again. Expanding broadband access would be great for underserved communities, but there is more to it than just infrastructure projects. And if you start glowing, be careful. One huge issue for people in East County, for instance, would be getting around geography, like mountains in the way, which would raise the cost. Also, availability of computers and related equipment. Are we ready to implement broadband in 4 months? And why wait for 4 months? The CEO should engage with communities from the start to see what the actual needs and any objections like privacy and security are, not just a few stakeholders. This will foster trust in the process and not leave a community feeling that this button has been imposed upon them, perhaps for the wrong reason. It is a question of trust. And there will be a fiscal impact, research time, labor costs, and supplies. We deserve an estimate. Kumeyaay Park. Rehabbing an existing ballpark is great. Let's approve the construction contract, but hold off on approving anything more. The state and federal governments have huge debt, and the economy is on the brink of collapse. We should not be approving large future costs at this time. $2 million has been set aside for this.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Barbara Gordon. I would like to comment on consent item number 2. I am a parent and a youth group mentor of a Hispanic high school group. I want to express my concerns with the Board of Supervisors considering establish a marijuana licensing and permitting program. Before you make this decision, we need to have public input on these important issues. The board needs to follow the science in making decisions that affect the health of its citizens. We have to follow the science regarding we follow the science regarding other health issues. All major scientific and medical organizations agree that marijuana is both addictive and harmful to the human brain, especially when used at adolescents. Marijuana use is at an all-time high, especially with our young people. 1 in every 6 16-year-old and 1 in every 10 adults who try marijuana develops a substance use disorder. Most of all, the so-called benefits of this drug are a false narrative pushed by groups that stand to profit from expanded access while our families pay the price with their health and their lives. As a youth leader who's trying to guide teens to make good decisions, you're making our jobs so much harder. My hope is the board will rethink their policy on permitting and licensing marijuana businesses in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Consuelo.
I still have a stop time for the Traffic Advisory Committee. That applies to MTS and SANDAG for the same reasons. The agenda to de-incentivize driving. Nobody wants to force anyone to stop driving. Just make it impossibly frustrating and expensive. Item 2, why continuation is bad. What you saw coming was political criminals like the crooked cannabis Cardenas using the industry as a money funnel to political campaigns. Perhaps taking the licensing program away from the sheriff's department was a tactic. And planning and development keeps pretending they're equipped to handle this program and all the corruption that's been growing grassroots behind the scenes.
Say it, girl.
And I wonder if people know that some cities are planning to use these cannabis businesses as an excuse to put up ALPRs. Item 3. $9.5 million to buy and restore some ball fields in Lakeside is outrageous. It's not a bad project by any means, but I'd like to see some cost reduction, maybe by nixing the $3.8 million trail along the San Diego River. Item 4, as this item says, the 30 by 30 program is an international agenda to take away 30% of the Earth's land and water from humans' use. This plan derived from 2021 amended Executive Order 12898, which still refers to the myth of ozone depletion and is in socialist sync with the United Nations Paris Agreement. No continuation. And item 5, AT&T and Cox are looking to get rich off the made-up digital divide, as referred to by SANDAG, which aims to see the building of totalitarian smart surveillance cities, where, quote, government will regulate economic activities and personal behaviors, end quote. That's from the 2021 regional plan, coming to a 2025 near you. I actually like to see less broadband because the radiation poses a significant health risk for humanity.
Amen.
And many of the internet partners are World Economic Forum members, such as Cox, Cisco, Dell, Google, HP, IBM, Intel, Microsoft, and Qualcomm.
All in bed.
Health bills if you want to talk.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Terry Ann Skelly. I'm a public health educator and advocate for good public health policy and land use decisions at my county planning group. I oppose item 2, and I'm glad you're continuing it to January 24th. We do not want more marijuana businesses in the backcountry. No planning group members in any planning group asked for a marijuana permitting program to be extended and expanded. It was brought forward by a supervisor who had financial and professional ties to the marijuana industry. We feel taking money for a marijuana program that we have not seen or made public comment about is disrespectful to our planning group members. New information about the potential dangers and harms of cannabis, especially among vulnerable populations like young adults and pregnant women, are being released every day. Our county should not be on the wrong side of history by facilitating more sales of a drug that works against good health. Big marijuana sells the same lies that big tobacco has sold to vulnerable populations. The county of San Diego should not allow marijuana, big marijuana, to increase its footprint in our neighborhoods. Look forward to the continuance in a couple of weeks. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Lawson Remer, that concludes public comment on the items on the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion by Supervisor Desmond, seconded by Supervisor Montgomery Stepp. Please vote.
And Vice Chair Lawson Remer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present and voting aye.
Thank you very much. We will now go to non-agenda public comment. Clerk, can you please call the remainder of the public speakers?
Thank you, Vice Chair Lawson Remer. We do have 8 members of the public that are still requesting to speak on matters not listed on the agenda. Those are all coming via phone. So for those that have requested to speak via phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you, and we'll give you a moment to do so. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. Again, when it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. Again, I'd like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll begin with our first caller.
Hey, it's truth. You know, I'm actually sad that Nora's not here today because I got a lot to say to her next time. Now, I know Sarah the Tyrant wanted 30-second speaking time back in 2021, but I want to know why you, Monica, supported 60-second censorship of speakers here. Where's the equity, especially for people with speech impediments? You had no problem with overt racist comments, stage though they were, at the San Diego City Council and never wanted to limit that behavior to 60 seconds. And Joel just happened to be absent for that item 15 vote yesterday, so that item could be continued yet again for a 4th time. Very suspicious behavior from all. And yesterday, Nora told Monica that screening to miscarry is her baby. And for your knowledge, Monica, screening to miscarry is a program that subjects children to mental and behavioral tests and potentially even drugs while they're in school without parental knowledge. That screening to miscarry baby should probably visit Nora's former really good job she had to give up, Planned Parenthood. I hear they offer something called reproductive health care that may help. Next, after Joel made the county spending secret, the total taxpayer money spent on the neighborhood reinvestment and community enhancement programs was $3 million in only 4 months. And remember, none of that even includes District 4. And who spent the most money? Jim, with $2.1 million. Not so fiscally conservative. Lastly, at the CalPERA conference, there was a session called The Lighthouse Effect, how ordinary people can have an extraordinary impact in the world. Quote, no one looks like their story. Within each seemingly ordinary person is a deeper story about resilience and persistence, gratitude and appreciation. Lighthouse moments. Like the physical lighthouse they exemplify. These moments appear in the midst of uncertainty, end quote. I found it inspiring enough to share, write about, and buy yet another badge of honor for my jacket that says, be the lighthouse in the storm. Something to think about. Have a good day.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
Oh, it's so easy to fool someone, and more than to convince them that they have been fooled, and that's what, people like Kevin Stevens need to pay attention to and understand is that, they are trying to pull wool over everybody's eyes, and they sit here and, play games like they're going to silence the people and then they don't, but they're also having the sheriff say that you can't stand up in the meeting. It's a bit ridiculous, and the way that you guys continue to treat the people that come in and tell the truth because you don't like it and you can't handle what's being said, you have to shut them up or just have the sheriff kind of enforce it for you. And it's sad because nobody is doing what they should be doing, which is protecting the people's rights and making sure that we have a place to come in. And so the reason why people don't is because of you guys and because of the way that you treat people when we are here or there and talking. And it should be something that you guys, if you actually cared about the people, you have this year to show them. But it's obvious you don't. You waste the people's time. You're inconsiderate of, just their whatever that they have to say, and yet you want to be respected. Well, you have to earn respect, and you're not giving respect, so why would you be earning it? And it's just sad to see that you guys do all of these things to push us into more and more total control, and people sit there and they thank you for it. And they're like, thank you for letting me speak. You know, you should be thanking us for your ability to even continue on the path that you're on, because you're lucky that more people aren't awake to see what's going on, because all of this would end in an instant if people walked out of the prison cell that has the door open. But they would rather sit in there and think that you guys are going to be a savior to them when they need to be the ones saving themselves. And it's sad because they're relying on you guys, and they don't understand that prison door is a...
Thank you. Your time is up. And to note for the record, that speaker was Audra. And we'll go to our next speaker.
Ann Riddle. Yesterday in non-agenda public comment, I had an opportunity to share good news on behalf of the public health community that the U.S. Supreme Court on Monday had declined to hear R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company's challenge to our California voter-approved measure that banned flavored tobacco products. And I expressed my concern at that time that this could have been handled 2 years earlier because the legislature and then governor who signed our own bill, and then we wouldn't have had to take it to a proposition vote 2 years later. And the reason that happened is the tremendous amount of money that the tobacco world threw at that to bring it to a vote 2 years later than the legislature who'd already passed it. And I expressed my concern that big tobacco and big marijuana share that in common, the ability through money to influence legislation. In the case of tobacco, luckily the public's voice was heard, and we returned the ban on flavored tobacco products to the people. My concern now is watching what's happening federally. Federally, the FDA also has a prohibition on flavored tobacco products, but it didn't include menthol. California does include menthol cigarettes, the feds don't. And we in the public health community have been petitioning the FDA to add menthol to that ban. And what we're noticing, of course, is the tremendous amount of money being thrown at keeping the FDA from doing this wonderful health idea of adding menthol cigarettes to flavoring. I point this out because it's money. It's the power of money to keep us from having the good health we all should have. And usually when we're talking influence on health.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Becky Rapp, and I'm a public health educator, and I'm concerned regarding this false narrative that the marijuana industry is portraying. Current and relevant scientific data is published, yet not being communicated or conveyed to residents regarding the detrimental harms of marijuana consumption. Today, I'd like to share with you a study published by Northwestern University and supported by the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. The study confirms that marijuana consumption, recent and long-term use, is linked to changes in the human epigenome. This is when chemical changes take place in human DNA. In the study, investigators analyzed whole blood samples taken 5 years apart and included data from more than 900 adults. The study proves that these epigenetic changes were found in pathways linked to cellular proliferation, hormone signaling, infections, and mental health disorders such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and substance use disorder. I urge you to request healthcare professionals to come and report on these negative health effects marijuana consumption has. When the government permits a product, its purpose is to be consumed. Residents trust that the product is safe and healthy. Marijuana is proven to have the opposite effect of health and safety on the body, including but not limited to changes in DNA. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our next speaker.
This is Peggy Walker, To refer to the last speaker talking about information not being communicated, I want to point out that media assessment shows permitting pot businesses is the best thing to happen to the black market. The black market has thrived, not diminished, alongside legalization. Worse, news reports show that the powerful black market has created something new, an emerging gray market, in which operators simultaneously operate legal and black market marijuana businesses. This is not good. It marks the failure of Prop 64's promise that legalization would end the black market, and it presents serious problems. For one, as the black market skyrockets, legal weed is collapsing, according to Cal Matters, which reported California's biggest legal pot distributor, Herbal, filed for bankruptcy last year, shorting the state $17 million in unpaid taxes. Others have followed. With commercialization in our rural areas, we can expect an exploding gray market here as operators attempt to compete. This presents a regulatory nightmare. Gray market operators thumb the nose at public health and safety, at code and law enforcement, tax revenue, and the intent of Prop 64. Further, the gray market begs the question, what is the value of legalization if unethical operators can have it both ways? I urge you not to add more marijuana businesses to this mess and to add to this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes the request for non-agenda public communication this morning.
Thank you. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Oh, we have closed session. Sorry about that. We will adjourn to closed session. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 6 speakers signed up to speak on closed session, all coming via phone. So for any members of the public that have requested to speak on this item by phone, if you could please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you, and we'll give you a moment to do so. We will now hear from those that have requested to speak by phone. Again, when it's your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted. You'll hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I'd like to remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking, and we'll begin with our first caller.
Truth, what a rookie there. Okay, case A is Ronnie Sandoval versus the County of San Diego and 3 nurses, Romeo de Guzman, Dana Harris, and Maria Amato. 2014, Ronnie underwent a probation check and deputies saw a gram of meth and drug paraphernalia, so he was arrested. Unbeknownst to the deputies, Ronnie swallowed another gram of meth to hide it. A deputy noticed Ronnie looking strange and asked him what was wrong. He suspected drug use. Nurse Romeo only performed a blood sugar test. It's alleged that Ronnie was then left unmonitored by medical staff for 8 hours in his jail cell. Then when they finally discovered him having a seizure, staff allegedly failed to promptly call paramedics. Apparently, when asked why he never checked on Ronnie, Nurse Romeo replied, quote, "I don't have to," end quote. So I'm beginning to wonder if the medical observation pills actually serve any purpose. Case B, Michael Wilson versus the county, former Sheriff Bill Gore, Deputy Lawson Garcia, Sheriff Medical Administrator Barbara Lee, Interim Chief Medical Officer Luis Gueron, Nurses Rizalina Batista, Anil Kumar, Marlene Ibanez, and Macy Gramono. Michael's guardian, Phyllis, alleges that in 2019, jail medical staff knew that Michael had a heart condition that required medication, but that they failed to provide it. By day 5, Michael never received his medications and was having trouble breathing. By day 6, he finally saw 2 doctors that gave him 1 dose of meds and cough syrup. He didn't recover, and so a nurse gave him more cough syrup and a nebulizer. After 9 days, Michael was put into an enhanced observation housing unit instead of medical in a top bunk, where he eventually lost consciousness, and despite jail staff resuscitation efforts, Michael died at age 32. In cases E and F are Nicholas Iafantaitis versus the county. Former County Chief Medical Officer Nicholas suing for wrongful termination and discrimination, but the federal jury disagrees and finds no discrimination. 5 out of 11 claims were dismissed. The county alleged that Nicholas sent inappropriate private messages to a subordinate county nurse and sent sexually charged messages to San Marcos Mayor Rebecca. And I hope that's not true, because Rebecca would not be interested in county clowns, pretty sure. And Nora and Joel are going to miss out on closed session. Is that legal? I don't know. That doesn't seem right.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll go to our next speaker.
Yeah, it's interesting the way the failures of the jails and all of this going on, and doesn't seem to be getting better, nor does Kelly seem to want to do any kind of improvements that would actually be saving people's lives, because people are dying left and right. And if somebody has a history of a heart problem and with an implanted pacemaker and whatnot, and then all of a sudden they got 2 weeks in jail for probation violation, and then they died in there because the medical staff was warned about his medical condition. He had him miss 36 doses of his prescription. For 3 days, he got 6 doses out of 18, and then he passed away. So it's negligent that you guys can sit here and put somebody in jail for a probation violation and they lose their life. And it continues because there's not the adequate staff that are even trained or willing to actually help people. It's as though they look at them in jail and they're just like, well, just leave them there, let them die. It doesn't really matter. It's just a depopulation, so you can get rid of them. We don't have to worry about paying for them anymore, but we should be really taking life more seriously. But we don't, because we inject people with bioweapons. And then this whole medical examiner thing, this one's a little bit weird because it's like he wanted to kill himself. He was on leave. He had, a psychiatric and medical and inquiry into the process, but they were supposedly discriminating against him for this. And then you have the, inappropriate behaviors from him. So, I'm not really sure, but I think you guys need to also pretty much probably wait until the entire board is there. But, it seems to be that, just a lot of weird shenanigans are going on with this one. And I don't even know how you would be able to determine that, but, the guy could just be making an excuse, but we shouldn't be allowing this inappropriate behavior to continue, but it continues all board.
Thank you. Your time is up. And not seeing any further callers, Vice Chair Lawson-Remer, that concludes public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you. And with that, now this meeting really is adjourned.
Thank you. The board will now recess into closed session to continue consideration of those matters listed under item 17 on yesterday's agenda. The next regular meeting of the board will take place on Tuesday, January 23rd at 9 a.m.